Howdy, folks. I just want to talk about something that was on my mind these days. Back in the 80s, I'm an old bastard. There was a type of music called hardcore, and it was a derivative of punk, which was a little more intense and fast and things like that. As a young kid back in the 80s, I really was into that style of music. And there was a band that really kind of like floated to the top in terms of that style, and also pioneering heavier music as the 80s went on. This is like 82. Although the Bad Brains, which is what I'm talking about, started in about like 79, 78. Really, really long time ago. But basically, I got into them in the 80s as a young kid, and I would read interviews in magazines because, no internet, things like that back in those days. And the lead singer of Bad Brains kept talking about this thing called P.M.A. And I'll just say that the lead singer, Bad Brains is a black band of all black musicians, and they have a very heavy crossover factor from reggae, actually, Kingston Jamaican reggae, actually. And yeah, kind of a weird crossover effect between hardcore and punk, as you might imagine. But they're one of my favorite bands in the entire universe, and still to this day. But in any case, they were talking about back in the 80s, articles I read, PMA. And what is PMA? PMA stands for Positive Mental Attitude. And back in those days, it kind of struck me as like, obviously it's a catchphrase, but the idea was pretty much that no matter what happens in your life, no matter what you're doing or what you want to do, you need to have an overriding aspect of positive mental attitude. So when you approach, something maybe you don't know, maybe you want to accomplish, maybe it's something that scares you, the overriding idea is that don't be scared. Have a positive mental attitude towards whatever you're going to try and do, whatever you're going to accomplish, whatever people you meet, situations you might run into. And, as a young kid, it really struck me as being a very Zen type of spirituality. It's not something you have to believe in, it's not something you have to have any kind of dogma about. It's just literally have a positive mental attitude towards life. And to this day, I forget it sometimes, probably more than I should, but it is an incredible, simple idea that I think a lot of folks should keep in mind. Try and keep that on their daily, action item agenda list. But point of that is being that, it's one of the few things in my life, this like stupidly simple phrase that a bunch of black musicians in 80s America with a lot of segregation, although, I mean, not literally, but social segregation, um, where they were talking about this overriding factor of a positive mental attitude against anything you might run into. And it really struck me as a young kid, and really to this day, it's still something that I always fall back on. It gives me strength in life. And these days, COVID and everything else that you might run into, this kind of ideal, the Zen of PMA, is something I think a lot of people should think about. And I just wanted to bring it up. Right on, folks. Have a great day.